Oh, now listen, everybody, this doesn't very often happen. None of you often get the opportunity to meet anybody quite as bubbly, knowledgeable, and enthusiastic as Claire Monks. Claire is the lead for the NHS Wales Graduate Management Training Scheme. I've worked with Claire on several occasions to deliver workshops and such like, and she's going to give you an insight into how the NHS acts, I admit, in Wales, goes about its recruitment process. But pin your ears back, take all of this in. That I can tell you now, the processes in England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland are not enormously different to this, but you are really privileged today to have the opportunity to listen to Claire, who's going to give you this insight. So stand by. Claire, if I can hand over to you, we're going to talk about insight into the NHS recruitment process, and I think particularly around things like CV skills as well. I think you may be making reference to that. So thank you very much. Off you go, Claire.
Thank you. No pressure. Can I just check you can see my screen? This is my first time using Zoom in 2025.
We can, Claire. We can. Thank you.
Perfect. I was going to start by saying I can't bring John's energy to this session this morning, but now I feel pressure, so I will try. I will try and do that. But bore da pawb, if there are any Welsh people on the call, which translates to a good morning, everyone. My name is Claire, and I am the programme lead for the NHS Wales General Management Graduate Programme here in Wales. And I'm really delighted to be here today to have a look at healthcare management roles with you and how we can prepare you for a career in the NHS. I am from Wales, but as John said, whatever I say will translate into other countries as well. I am absolutely, I'm sure. So whether you're considering applying for a job in the NHS or you're just curious, hopefully this session will give you some practical insights and some tips. Now I've got to try and move the screen. There we go. I'm slowly getting there. So firstly, a little bit about us here in Wales. So NHS Wales is the publicly funded National Health Service in Wales, and it provides healthcare to some 3 million people who live in the country. And it has been doing so for over 75 years, not as long as IHSCM. So NHS Wales is a vital part of the public service here and working together with its key partners, including local government and the third sector, public service values and associated behaviours are and must be at its heart. So NHS organisations must be value-driven. You'll hear the word value a lot from me today. I have strong values, and it's what I look for when I'm recruiting. So yeah, they must be value-driven, rooted in high standards of public life and behaviour. So we are the largest employer here in Wales with around 110,000 staff, and we offer a wide range of opportunities. And we want people who are passionate about making a difference. So there are over 350 careers in the NHS, and a large number of these are non-clinical, and they're ranging from porters and cleaners to catering assistants to admin support and managers. A group of roles which may not typically spring to mind when thinking of the NHS are our admin positions, but they play an essential role in keeping the service running here in England, Scotland, Wales, wherever you are. So you may not have thought of the NHS as a career option before, but many of the skills and much of the experience you have gained, whether that be in school, in university and other jobs, they're key in NHS roles. So don't be put off. We're not all doctors and nurses. There are many, many roles. So whatever skills, experience and qualifications you have, the NHS can offer you an exciting and rewarding career. So I'll talk about a little bit about NHS managers, because I would imagine many of you would be interested in that. So our NHS managers play a vital role in ensuring that healthcare services are delivered efficiently, they're delivered safely, and they're in line with our national standards. So their responsibilities can vary depending on the level and area of management, but they'll generally fall into several key categories. I've put some on the slide for you here. So we have our clinical managers. They will be leading our healthcare teams to deliver patient care. Our estates managers overseeing our NHS buildings, keeping us safe. We have our finance managers who help us with our budgets and financial planning. Our people managers, looking after recruitment, our HR, the training and the staff wellbeing. We have our operational managers, very, very popular with my general management trainees. They all love operational management, and they are ensuring that they're on the front line. So they're ensuring that the frontline services are well resourced and efficient. Then we have our project and programme managers. That's where I would sit, and a part of that role, so we would lead change initiatives and service improvements. So healthcare managers, in my opinion, are the engine behind the scenes of the NHS. A typical day can start with thinking of some of my things, so team briefings, reviewing performance data. You'll be involved in meetings with clinical leads, planning service improvements. We may be focusing on staff development or stakeholder engagement. It's fast-paced, it's people-focused, that requires leadership, adaptability, and strong communication. So a little bit about our recruitment process. I won't go on about this too much, but it's good for you to know what to expect. So the NHS recruitment, regardless of where you are, will be structured and it will be values driven. So you'll usually apply through NHS Jobs, or we use Track in NHS Wales. But if you go on NHS Jobs, you'll find every single job available to you in the NHS. And applications are shortlisted based on how well you meet the person's specification. Key if you're applying for a role in the NHS. Interviews often include values-based questions to assess alignment with our NHS principles. And it's really important to tailor your application to each role. Please don't do one application and keep putting the same one in for the roles. You won't be shortlisted. So it is a bit of time, but it's really important. You can use the same application, please tweak. So we know applying for a job is not easy. We understand the waiting and the recruitment process, they can be frustrating. And I'll briefly explain the steps of our recruitment process here in Wales and how we make sure that it's fair and is safe for all applicants, patients and staff. So very, very, very briefly. Step one, all our job adverts will appear on NHS Jobs. Adverts will include information about your salary, your base. They'll feature a job description with the person's specification, which is what people will shortlist on, that final sheet. Make sure you look at that person's specification. And this will provide detailed information about the roles and the responsibilities of the job and what the successful candidate needs to have with regards to the skills and experience. So once you've found a job you love, you'll move on to the application stage. This can take around 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the amount of information you wish to provide. So to apply for a vacancy, an online application form will need to be completed. We don't accept applications via email or CV, and there will be exceptions, and I'll move on. I can discuss those. But the reason we don't do this for the generic NHS jobs is they're standardised to ensure a fair selection process. So the application process requests information such as your contact details, your qualifications, your work history and references. But there is a supporting statement on the application. For me personally, it's the first place I go. So I scroll all the way down when I'm clicking on an application, and I will want to know what you have put in your supporting information. So 1,500 words for us here. I would imagine it's the same everywhere else. You please fill the box with that, I'll give you some tips later about what to fill the supporting information in with, but please not 1 or 2 paragraphs. As someone who reads a lot of applications, I want to know the person behind that application. It's really important to me, and it is competitive. So if you're not giving us enough detail, you're likely to not make it to the interview. We want to know about you. So once the vacancy is closed, we shortlist the applications for you. At this stage, all applications are anonymous. That will be everywhere for everybody. So there's no names, no contact details are visible until after the shortlisting has taken place. And then if you're successful in the shortlisting stage, you will be invited to interview. So a little, whether it's the NHS or anywhere, I'll give you some what I like. So to prepare for your interview, you may want to anticipate some questions that may be asked at the interview, and how would you want to impress them. So I would want to know at interview, why do you want to work in this organisation, and why are you interested in this particular role? So I would prepare yourself for that type of question. I'd also prepare yourself for a skills and strengths question, particularly those that are outlined in the job description. It's important to come prepared with examples. And I'd also want to know how your values align with the organisation. They're the top 3 things that I would always ask you at interview. They are what is important to me. Then swiftly moving on, if you're successful in the role, you have pre-employment checks where they will look at your ID, your qualifications, your references, criminal record check, and then hopefully all going well, you would start in that role. I appreciate that was very quick. I am more than happy to meet anybody offline later. So what do we look for? So I am looking for more than qualifications. Yes, relevant degrees or experience help, but for me, I want to see your values and your attitudes. So can you work in a team? Are you resilient? Do you reflect NHS values like compassion and integrity? These are just as important as technical skills. So the NHS places strong emphasis on candidates who demonstrate a clear alignment with its core values, so compassion, respect, integrity, and a commitment to public service. I'm looking for your motivation and your career aspirations. So a candidate would be expected to articulate why they want to join the NHS and why they hope and what they hope to achieve whilst with us. Interview panels will often probe you for long-term aspirations in the NHS and how candidates plan to grow into leadership roles. We'll be looking at your skills and resilience. You should demonstrate critical thinking, adaptability, a willingness to learn, and questions. Again, I give you some things. So questions often explore what the skills and experience might help you succeed and what challenges you may anticipate facing. There, another popular question that will come up. Understand if this is for the NHS or not, wherever you're applying, understand the context of where you're going. So I would encourage you to show awareness of the NHS structure, the current challenges, and the specific role they're applying that you're going to apply for. You can include, I suppose this includes referencing organisation values and showing how your background fits the organisation needs. So am I okay for time? I'm just checking. Yeah, sorry, I'm going fast. So we're nearly there. So enhancing your CV. Like I've said, we don't use CVs very often. I do for my internship programme. If anybody's interested in an internship programme here in Wales. So your CV is your first impression. Use the job description or the job specification, whatever you're given that you're applying for, to guide what you include. Use the STAR method, I would suggest, to describe your achievements. Show me how you've demonstrated the NHS values in your work or your studies. keep it clear, keep it concise, and keep it tailored. And please always proofread. Some of the things that I would look for is you research the organisation and the role, prepare for values-based questions. I said values would be coming up a lot today. Use specific examples. So it's always back something up. And if you don't succeed the first time, ask for feedback and try again. I promise you, persistence and preparation go a long way. I've seen people do amazing things through persistence and going back and learning from feedback. So when you're applying to the NHS, your CV will need to do. It needs to show more than list your experience. It needs to show that you align again with our values and how you've made a difference. Start tailoring your CV to the specific role. Use the job description, as I've said, and the person specification. Use it as a checklist. Check. You know, you've done that. That is what every person in NHS, wherever we are, will be scoring on. Do they have the essential criteria? So try and cover all that. If the role asks for leadership, show where you've led a team or a project. If it mentions communication, give an example of how you've communicated effectively in a challenging situation. As I said, use the STAR model. So for anyone that doesn't know, situation, task, action, result, to structure your examples, especially helpful for the recruitment in the NHS, which is a big part of hiring. Lots of people use STAR. Achievements matter. So don't just say what you did, say what impact you had. So for instance, I helped streamline appointment bookings, reducing wait times by 15%. That's all we need. But you've shown how you did it. You haven't just said that you've got an achievement. We want to know how. Include your relevant experience. Even part-time jobs, volunteering, they show transferable skills like teamwork, reliability, and initiative as well. And presentation, I know I've said proofread, I'm nearly finished, I promise. Presentation is key. Keep your CV to 2 pages, use a clean layout, proofread. It's tough out there, and decisions have to be made, and sometimes it comes down to really silly things that you have to sift people out on. I think I'm conscious of time, but hopefully a big thank you for your time today. I hope I didn't run over too much. I'd love to answer some of your questions, whether it's about CVs, the NHS, anything you want. I could talk to you all day, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. Actually, we do have a little bit of time according to the schedule left. Could I talk? I wonder. I'm hoping this will resonate with you, Claire. We've talked about it together a great deal. One of the big things that we're seeking to achieve through the Graduate Management Training Scheme in Wales and elsewhere is to make sure that the managers of the future across the NHS have the right values and mindset and outlook, particularly around compassion, whereby when they come in and they start having this privilege of looking after people, supervising their work and so on, we have, or they have, a really positive experience of it. And I wonder if you might like to just really quickly just talk about the importance in particular of an approach to compassionate leadership, and why NHS Wales has particularly honed in on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You are absolutely correct. The graduate programme is a perfect example of pushing compassionate leadership through talent in NHS Wales. So we have worked extremely hard, I would say, probably over the last 5 years around compassionate leadership, that we've had really poor, we probably still do in some areas, I'm going to be totally honest, around poor cultures in NHS Wales, poor treatment, you know, giving, whether it's for patients or for staff. So we've got we have a compassionate leadership program now, which every organisation in Wales is running through. And I think it's often people say they're not compassionate because they don't have time to be compassionate, and it's too busy. This waiting list. We have workforce pressures, all those kind of things. Sorry, John, was your question how are we doing it?
Yeah, I think you kind of answered it, to be fair. I wanted to impress upon the students the extent to which things like values, compassion, thoughtfulness, doing the right thing,
Yeah.
we're not interested in appointing managers who just rely on tell, direct, instruct,
No,
kind
we're not.
of old-fashioned version of what it takes to lead people effectively. And certainly for the
Absolutely not.
students here at Arden, hearing you talk about values-based recruitment and so on, I'm hoping they're getting the message that the sorts of language they might want to use in their written CV applications, etc., the more you can talk about your personal values, your commitment to compassionate leadership, your thoughtfulness, examples of how you've led people effectively, all that stuff is really good. And if I may give a plug to Professor Michael West's book as well, if any of you would be interested in gaining some language that you could use in interview situations and so on around compassionate leadership, you could do a lot worse than have a copy of Michael's book here. There you go, Compassionate Leadership, Professor Michael West. I think that should be required content for any student of health and social care management. So
you've got a second book now, John. I'll have to post it to you.
Oh Lord, okay.
But we also have Speaking Up Safely here in Wales as well. It is okay to challenge poor behaviours. You're not going to get into trouble. It's we things need to change, and it is a big push here in NHS Wales. But yeah,
I think it's just this. If you thought your old, the 1980s, 1990s method of tell, direct, instruct, just do what I say. If you think that's the sort of language that they're going to be encouraging you to come up with in interviews, then you're mistaken. They want to hear about you. They want to hear about your personal commitment and values. They need to reassure themselves that if you do come in, particularly in a management role, actually you're going to help people to feel supported, oxygenated, and inspired. All right. Well, look, I think that's a great start. Claire, you see, I told everybody that you'd be fabulous. I told everybody that this was a real privilege for them. I don't think some of them believe me, but now they know.
I did have a slide with contact details of where you can find the jobs, our Careersville, the NHS graduate programme. So I'm sure Jade will share those with you all.
Yeah, Jade's nodding away.
I've popped them in the chat for everyone to download now. So thank you, Claire.
Jade, could you put up the link to Professor Michael West's work as well, I wonder, on compassionate leadership? You can find anything there. So Rizwana, yeah, we'll reference that in the chat. All right, can we all hear it? You can put yourselves on mute, but can you all show huge applause?
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to answer any questions. If anybody wants to email me, that's absolutely fine. I am quite responsive. Always happy to support new talent and people wanting to make their way into the NHS. Brilliant.
Claire, we're indebted to you. Thank you so much for coming along today and sharing your valuable time with the students.
Lovely to see everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Claire.
Bye.
Okay, well, if you thought that was good, did you all think that was good? Did you all think that was good? Isn't it interesting that actually it's not necessarily about the specific health and social care employment?
Yes, that's very good. Thank you.
It's much more important to be able to talk about your values and your commitment to public service and so on. So please let's pop that in our heads. Let's make sure that we've taken those messages on board, particularly when you're writing your personal statements.